Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 minutes to 1. Now, a few months ago, Conservative MP Miriam Cates spoke to demographists at the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship about what she called the elephant in the room when it comes to Britain's economic prospects.
Yes, and in the discussion published in a podcast this week, Miriam Cates, who is known for speaking out on issues related to children and families, claimed that the decline in childbirth rates could lead to economic stagnation, as regardless of whether you stand on the left or the right, a good workforce is needed for a strong economy.
Well, Britain's fertility rate is just half of what it was 60 years ago. And with immigration at record levels now, should the British public be making more of an effort to have more babies? Making more of an effort.
That's a funny question, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're joined now by Miriam Cates herself. Miriam, I like the way we put that, it made me laugh. Miriam, it's very sad, actually, because I've heard you speak about this issue quite a lot, and you've said in this podcast, that now a podcast, saying that it could become culturally unusual for couples to have babies, and there are a lot of women out there who desperately want babies, but they can't have them for whatever reason.
So I think we are waking up to the fact that this is a problem. And of course, I should absolutely say at the outset, some people don't want to have children. That's absolutely legitimate. It's always been the case. Nobody, least of all me, has got any interest in trying to encourage people who don't want to have children. That's not necessary at all. But what the polling suggests is that the vast majority of young women do want to have children, 92% in fact. And on average, They want 2.3 children, so 2 or 3 children in other words. But sadly, we know that up to about 30% of the current cohort of young women, so 18 to 35-year-olds, probably won't end up with children. Now, that's a serious social problem. That's a lot of young women, and obviously men as well, of course, ending up childless when actually they always planned to have children. That is a big source of grief for many people, and that's why we should be trying hard to fix the barriers. But also, it's a serious economic problem, because I think we have been told for so long the world is overpopulated, there are too many people, it's causing climate change, etc. Now, that's not to say there aren't problems with fast-growing populations. There can be, but actually, it's the opposite of that that's happening now. And when I was born, there was about 4 working-age people to every pensioner in this country. So 4 people working, paying taxes, doing jobs to support one person who's retired. It's now 3 to 1. And by the end of my life, it will be 2 to 1. Now, you think of the impact that has on the amount of tax that people have to pay, the amount of care work that needs to be done. It's economically unsustainable. And that's why so many Western economies, including ours, are now creaking at the seams with healthcare bills and social care work and tax bills that they're almost unable to pay because the demographics are kind of upside down. So this is a serious problem, both socially but also economically.
There's such a stark statistic, moving from 4 working-age people to a pensioner to
Shocking.
2. I mean, just simple maths there. You'd have to double taxes just to keep pensions level. I mean, that's extraordinary.
Exactly, and this is why both left and right get hung up with the kind of ideology of tax rates. You know, the left want more spending, the right want lower taxes, but you can neither have lower taxes or more spending if you don't have enough young people coming into the workforce to work and pay tax. That's just basic maths. It's not ideology, it's not politics. And I think that's what we've got to realise and start talking about.
And Miriam, do we know the breakdown of this? Because obviously not all women are the same. Which types of women, if I can say that, are not having children? Is it university-educated women who have gone on to careers and they may leave it a little too late? Is it people living in cities? Do we have a breakdown?
I think there's quite a lot of different strands to this, and it's actually really interesting to look at how the data kind of adds up. So the headline figures are that you need 2.1 babies per woman to have this stable demographic where you have enough people coming into the workforce to replace those who are leaving it. And we're now down to about 1.5 babies per woman. But it's not as simple as that. What's happening is that women who do become mothers tend to have the same number of children as they might have done in the 70s, so 2, 3, or maybe 4 children. What has changed is a number of women who never become mothers at all. And I think there are a number of factors in that. Firstly, people are leaving it later. That's partly a function of education. It's definitely a function of house prices. People seem to finding it harder to find partners in cities. So that seems to be a big factor, because obviously if you do leave it later, sadly, there is a greater chance that you won't be successful in becoming pregnant. So that's definitely one factor. But there are a whole load of other issues. And that's why I think culture is quite important here as well, because of course, having a child is partly dependent on finding a partner, having enough money. But also you look at what other people are doing too, don't you? And you're unlikely to want to have a child if there's nobody else in your community with a baby, no parent and baby groups, no safe place to take your child to play. And I think it's partly a cultural thing that the fewer children we have, the fewer children people will want to have. And that is something that government can surely get.
Absolutely. Well, Miriam Cates, thank you very much for joining us. I think we've just cut out at the end there, but we got all of that interview there.
It's
so
terribly
really
sad, isn't it? Lots of women wanting to have children, either not meeting the right partner, not being able to afford it, pursuing their career and not thinking about it until it's too late, and the difficulties of the costs, of course.
One of the harshest things, I think, that came to light